'Tis the season to be podcasting. Stay inside with a warm beverage and a hot microphone. If you're interested, Spotify can help you out. They've got a platform that lets you make one, distribute it, and earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So you've already got the equipment necessary to start recording today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple, Google, and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&A and polls are an excellent way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's completely free. I switched Dorky, Geeky, Nerdy over to Spotify for Podcasters, and I haven't regretted it. The analytics are fantastic, and the new tools for hosting and updating the feed are way more than I could do self-hosting. Now, it's your turn. Head to podcasters.spotify.com and read all about it. Then, let me know what you're podcasting all about. Greetings and salutations. This is the Dorky, Geeky, Nerdy Trivia Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Rollins, and this week, for episode 108, we're going to try something a little different. As we work our way through Black History Month, I'm struck by all the stories being presented that never showed up in our history books. At least, not the ones used in elementary and high school. So I got to thinking, what other stories are out there? What are we missing? So this episode is dedicated to those untold stories, the weird, the unusual, and the uncomfortable. This one is going to be a little harder than our usual fare, but bear with me. I think you'll like learning something new if you didn't know it before. If you did know it, great, you're probably reading a lot more than the rest of us. As always, it's 3 rounds of 10 questions each. If you need rules or a scorecard, visit the show's website at dorkygeekynerdy.com. I think that's all the setup we need for this week's show, so let's get started. The Dorky Round. Number 1. Columbus didn't land in what we now call America. Where did he actually land in 1492? The Bahamas. Number 2. Native American populations were decimated in the years before the founding of Plymouth Colony by what? A plague. The cause is unknown, but it left the native peoples unable to repel European colonizers. Number 3. The Mormon Church officially renounced what in 1890? Polygamy, though the practice continues today in fringe religious groups. Number 4. While 6 million Jews were killed under Hitler, between 7 and 9.5 million Jews were killed under what other dictator? Joseph Stalin. Number 5. In 1952, who was offered the position of President of Israel? Albert Einstein. Number 6. Roman Emperor Gaius wanted to name what animal to the Senate? his horse. Gaius is more commonly known as Caligula. Number 7. What famous speech begins with, "I am happy to join you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation"? Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. Number 8. What continent was originally called Alkebulan? Africa. The current name was given to it by Greeks and Romans. Number 9. Prior to 2021, what was the only time a living U.S. president skipped out on their successor's inauguration? 1869, when Andrew Johnson refused to go to Ulysses S. Grant's inauguration. Much like Donald Trump, Johnson was also impeached and openly hostile to his successor. Number 10. Why did Franklin D. Roosevelt have the Resolute desk altered? He added a panel in the front to hide his leg braces. The Geeky Round. Number 1. W.E.B. Du Bois led a group of black intellectuals that founded what civil rights group in 1905? The Niagara Movement. It's considered a forerunner to the NAACP. Number 2. White soldiers returning from World War I to find they had been replaced at their jobs by black men led to what? The Red Summer of 1919. Riots broke out in over 10 cities. Number 3. What was the first U.S. state to abolish slavery? Rhode Island in 1774. Technically, they were still a colony back then. Number 4. How many U.S. states have never allowed slavery? Only 9. Number 5. Even though 13,200 homes and 87 churches were destroyed and 70,000 people were left homeless, only 6 deaths were reported from what disaster? The Great London Fire of 1666. Number 6. The shortest war in history was fought between what 2 countries? England and Zanzibar. It lasted all of 38 minutes. Number 7. What 2 nations were engaged in the longest war in history? The Netherlands and Sicily. They were at war from 1651 to 1986. There were no casualties. Number 8. The NAACP was founded in what year? (1909). Number 9. The Grand Mosque in Mecca was seized by militants in what year? (1979). The event, which led to over 200 deaths, is pointed to as a turning point for Saudi Arabia and what may have radicalized Osama bin Laden. Number 10. The world's oldest parliament is located in what country? Iceland. It was established in the year 930. The nerdy round. Number 1. In 1961, the U.S. Air Force almost nuked what state? North Carolina. The bombs were dropped by accident. Thankfully, a switch malfunctioned and they didn't go off. Number 2. What was the first country to permanently abolish slavery? Haiti, in 1804, which makes sense since they are the only successful slave revolution in history. Number 3. Karl Marx was a correspondent for what U.S. newspaper? The New York Daily Tribune. Number 4. Black History Month began as what in 1926? Negro History Week. It was created by Carter G. Woodson, an African-American scholar, historian, and educator. It became Black History Month in 1976. Number 5. The Chinese Massacre of 1871 occurred in what city? Los Angeles, California. Between 17 and 20 Chinese immigrants were killed. 8 men were convicted of manslaughter, though all of those were overturned. Number 6. Who was Jim Crow? A fictional character created by Thomas D. Rice as a racist stereotype of African Americans. It was popular in the mid-1800s. Jim Crow laws were built around using this derogatory image of black people in the United States. Number 7. What African nation began as a settlement of the American Colonization Society? Liberia. Many former slaves were freed only to be sent to Africa, whether they wanted to go or not. Number 8. What currently stands on the site of Seneca Village, a community of African American homeowners? Central Park. New York used eminent domain to buy the land and move the original owners out. Number 9. Tsutomu Yamaguchi holds what distinction? He survived both atomic blasts in Japan 1945. He was on a business trip to Hiroshima, survived the August 6th bombing, went home the next day to Nagasaki, where it too was bombed on August 9th. Number 10. In 1941, the Soviet Union and the British launched a joint invasion of what country? Iran, who was neutral during World War II. Both nations were desperate for oil. And that's it for the questions. History is filled with weird tales and horror stories. We learn from both the triumphs and failures of those that came before us. If you're inspired to do more reading or research, go for it. If you don't swing by our website, you might not see the extra credit podcasts that I share every week. These are other podcasts that relate to the topic of the week. I'll have plenty this week to help you dive into Black history or other histories that aren't told as often. I'll be back again next week for another show. There's no hint and no clue. Next week is our 2-year anniversary. If you were here with us last year for a 1 year, you know what you're in store for. If not, you get a surprise. Or go back to our episode from last year and find out. This has been episode 108 of the Dorky, Geeky, Nerdy Trivia Podcast. The music for One Last Time is Big Blues by Jason Shaw at Audionautics. It's carried us all year, and I want to thank Jason for letting us use the song. I usually cut it off, but this week, I'll let it play out. I'm your host, Brian Rollins. Thanks for listening.